I feel like the majority of the guys that date it, we've been like 50-50. I think that also comes with age, though. I think that also comes with
Welcome
age.
to
If
the
you're dating
No
someone and
Cap
you're
Show.
young, you guys are
Welcome to
both
the
broke.
No Cap Show. Yo, what's up, YouTube? My name is Shisha Zed. I am back in here, man, with another No Cap show for you guys, man. We're back with the No Cap. Actually, no. Let me scratch that. This is the show where people tell the most lies on YouTube. Today, we've got a new guest with us here. Would you please introduce yourself to the people? Let them know your name, your age, and where you're from.
All right. So my name is Alexis Storm. I am 27 years old, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn.
Not originally, but that's where I live. I live in
Where you
Brooklyn.
originally from?
I was born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama.
Before I get into the title of the actual video, I need to know, Alex, have you seen Fresh and Fit before this podcast?
Not a full episode. Definitely not. No.
Not so you have seen them before.
I've seen it like in Crossing.
Got you.
No.
She's already started with the cat, people. She's already started with the cat. First question,
not a full
man.
episode. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna pretend to know it. I'm not super familiar. So
Got you. I understand. I got you. So you've like seen it, maybe watched a little bit, and clicked out.
Yeah.
So the video we're going to be reacting to today is called "We Ask Them What They Bring to the Table." And so the video starts out the same way as most of the Fresh and Fit podcasts do. There's a panel of women. And the question was, what do you guys bring to the table, right? They did the whole thing where they go around and start with the first person and they make the way all the way around, right?
What do you bring to the table for that man that you actually want? Because think about this, right? Miami has many beautiful girls. Why is he going to choose you over all those girls?
So we can start over here.
So what do you bring to the table for that man that you actually want?
When I heard the answers, I was hearing a lot of loyalty, the bag.
Yeah, I'm able to find different ways of making income.
For me, I just think loyalty.
I'm bringing loyalty to the table, and I like girls too. So
Obviously, I bring money to the table as well. I make 6 figures myself.
One thing I'm glad I didn't hear someone say is I am the table. You know what I mean? Because when I hear that shit, I'm just like, oh man. So you couldn't think of anything that you bring to the table.
Yeah. But at the same time, like one of the girls said, I bring a bag and she's making like 60 or 70K. I'm like, the bag's not that big.
What would you bring to him? Because you said I'm going to bring a bag. That's an
well,
ambiguous
okay,
term.
yearly I make about, I'll say about
It could be approximate.
50,
Okay.
50 to 70.
Okay, so you would bring 50 to 70K per year annually to this man that makes a couple. Okay, no, I'm just because
Yeah.
you said I'm going to bring a bag, so I was
Right,
like,
but that's
a,
what, my income goes up every year. So
I feel you. I guess it depends on who you're talking to, right? To her, she's like, I'm doing
No, but
this
I thought the question to everyone was like if they attracted a millionaire.
Yes.
Right.
And
so,
you know what? I appreciate you for actually bringing that up because I was going to skip that. He asked him, this is a man that you want. And then later on, it was like a millionaire. This guy is a man that you want. What are you bringing to a man who has options?
So everyone wanted a millionaire.
Main question.
Basically.
if I had a millionaire, I'm done dancing. What the?
Oh, well.
Everybody, yeah.
I feel like
So-
but at every point in time, every woman at some point said millionaire. Like they have a lot of money, right? Like I felt like that became the new topic.
Yeah, I did. Of course,
Yeah.
because women love millionaires, but we're gonna talk about that later on. So after he got through with everybody, of course, Myron takes notes throughout the whole podcast, and he came to the conclusion that the women were a little bit unrealistic with their expectations. He said, first of all, you ladies want a man who's in the less than 1% of men out here when it comes to earning potential.
the honest truth is when you deal with men on this level, 6'3", 500K, multi-millionaire,
That's right.
attractive and 6 foot, making quite a bit of money, can dance, all this other stuff, good hygiene. You deal with men like this, you forego a lot of power and leverage, ladies, because the thing is this is uncomfortable truth. Women are not as special as they think they are. Okay. There's plenty of beautiful women all over the place. There's always a girl that's younger, more attractive than you, and more compliant, submissive. I noticed a lot of you brought your income into it. Be honest with you, men that make this kind of money don't give a shit how much money you make at all.
Facts.
Right.
The nail in the coffin was the last statement he made, which was kind of like the elephant in the room. I was waiting for this. He said, listen, a lot of you guys here are like video vixens and like strippers. And when a guy thinks of a relationship, in most cases, he's not looking to date strippers. The average guy, especially if he's successful, guys don't usually go to that for like a potential person to have a serious relationship with.
So when you deal with men like this, you don't have a choice. You have to share them. You might not like that, but you're going to have to share them because beauty is common, but high value men are not. The man you guys described is literally a 1%er that has options, and all the women are chasing this guy.
Right.
So, and the other thing too is, you know, based on your guys' background, a lot of guys would just write you guys off immediately for being a dancer. They would not take you serious. You know, they might
Have fun with
smash you, date you a little bit here and there, but they would not commit to you long term.
And this was probably uncomfortable for him to say, but you know, they say a lot of uncomfortable stuff on the podcast. A lot of those girls didn't want to stop being strippers. He asked him, said, are you willing to stop being a stripper? Are you willing to stop dancing? And she's like, no, I enjoy it. One of them was like, no, I like dancing, so I'm not going to give that up.
I don't think so. I do music videos, and I think that's my passion, and that's where I get my income from. So I don't think I'll stop dancing.
And he's like, okay, well, that might be a problem. Overall, what did you think of the video?
Well, a couple things. So I don't know. I feel like there's obviously some confusion about like what kind of guy they were talking about, right? Because you're saying like, you know, the average guy wouldn't want to date a stripper, but at the same time, I feel like the average guy is not a millionaire, right? So if you're talking about the average type of guy, maybe those women would be potential matches for the average type of guy. But if you're talking about a millionaire, I feel like it's a separate conversation because those expectations should be a little bit different, right? I mean, do you agree?
No.
What?
I disagree.
So you think a millionaire
Surprise.
and an average man with like a basic salary should have or do have similar expectations in what they want from a woman?
Well, here's the thing, right? There's some things that regardless of economic status, men all agree on. One of
Okay.
those things is we aren't usually attracted to promiscuous women. If she belongs to the
Not
streets,
publicly.
if we know her profession, just the whole notion that like somebody's a stripper, like just the idea that even if they quit, most guys will be like, oh man, she used to be a stripper, dog. Like, are you sure you're okay with that? You know what I mean? Men in general, I'm telling you, men in general are not cool with that. You know that. You know that. because
No, but there's a difference between I used to strip and I'm stripping.
There is no, well, not in a man's mind. The difference is you're just not stripping right now, but it's still a big deal for most guys that you used to strip, right? It's still a pretty big deal. And here's the interesting thing about like your thought process, and a lot of women don't understand this, right? Is we live in this world where it's like, I'm a woman, I should be able to do what I want and be accepted as a part, you know, I should find a partner who's willing to accept that. The truth is, that's not the case for a lot of women out here. You know, if you decide to be a stripper, your chances, I'm not saying it's impossible because, you know, there are people who do find people, but the world works in generalities. So your chances of finding somebody to take you seriously after being a stripper, especially a man who has options, are very slim. Very slim. Not to mention, too, a lot of these guys who are in that top 10%, they're not attracted to other women who are as highly ambitious as they are, right? They want their women to be more traditional. You end up finding out that a lot of these guys want people who are going to do things that they can't, raise children, if it's going to turn into something serious, you know. But if we're just talking about even relationships and dating, guys' mind just doesn't go there, millionaire or not. That's just something men are not attracted to.
I think that if a person has their past and you meet them in a place where they're not a representation of their past, I think it speaks to the man to not be able to step up and overcome that, because everyone has a past. including the men who don't want to date the women who have passed, right? So I think that's just an unrealistic expectation of the man. And, you know, I might agree with you that a lot of men do have that way of thinking, but I don't necessarily think that makes it right or makes it fair. I think that is a conversation that should be had early on so that they don't continue to feel that way, because that's very double-sided, because no man is going to be questioned the same way women are.
Because we're not the same. So let me explain to you this. Alex, I do agree with you with this, right? Yes, a man will forgive your past. He'll forgive a couple of hot girl summers. You know what I mean? You forgive, like, you know, you were doing your thing for a little bit. Most men understand that we're not out here looking for virgins. It's too late for that. You feel me? It's just what it is. And they've accepted that. But there's a fine line there. Stripping, that's a different kind of past. And here's the problem, is that it sounds bad to say that. Why? Because we always try to, what I've seen, I've noticed, is like we always try to remove accountability from a man a lot of the times, from women, excuse me, a lot of the times. We try to like remove accountability and always put it on the man. There you said, hey, it's the man's fault. Myron said something at the very end. He says, women are attracted to men who have a bright future, and men are attracted to women who don't have a past. So the way we kind of are attracted to each other are very different, right? A man who has hoes gets congratulated. You know what I mean? A man who has women who are attracted to him, and he gets congratulated. Just look at famous people like Drake, for example. Like, you don't hear people slut shaming Drake for all the women he's been with, but then you look at someone like Lori Harvey, and all of a sudden people have a problem with it. It's just, we're different creatures. We are attracted to different things.
Yeah, but you're turning into a biological argument, I feel like, because attraction it's like your chemical instinct, your biological instinct, right? But I think what you're describing are social norms that we've accepted and projected and stigmatized people with, to where they feel that they can't be anything other than this status quo thing. I think that, and like being attracted to someone, finding redheads attractive versus skinny girls attractive versus guys with broad shoulders attractive, like that's just your preference, right? But how you choose to respond and react to things, that's something that's learned. So I don't think they're exactly the same.
So are you telling me that there are no generalities when it comes to like attractiveness, right? What men usually find attractive about women and what women usually find attractive about men? For example, let me ask you.
I think physical aspects,
do you
yes.
think, let me ask you this question. Do you think most women prefer a man that's taller than them?
Yes.
I agree, right? We accept that standard that cannot be changed.
Right, that's
Now,
a physical aspect. Now you see me, now you don't, right? Like you like what you see, but someone's past
That's
their
physical.
history, their
Height is
experiences.
physical. Height is physical.
You can't see an experience, right? Like being a stripper, it's probably a terrible job. That is an experience, right? That comes.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you think most women would be attracted to a man who has multiple, for marriage and like dating, relationship, serious relationship? Do you think they'll be attracted to a man who has multiple baby mamas and kids?
No, but is being a stripper equivalent to having multiple baby mamas? Like,
I mean, it's a past that is hard to accept about somebody, and that women usually don't go out.
No. You can't. I don't think that they're comparable. You can't like have a kid and
How
like,
are they not comparable?
undo. I'm not going to be a parent anymore, right? Like you have a kid, you have a kid. You have a kid with multiple people. You can't undo the child. If you become a stripper, you can quit.
You can quit, but it doesn't mean that you haven't been affected by your.
But I don't think they're comparable experiences. One has a definite end date once you take the decision and the accountability to choose to stop doing it. And a parent, you say a parent until
the consequences are different, right? Of course, the consequences are different, but the reaction on both ends, both sexes, are the same. They're negative. They're negative. If you are a stripper, if you're out here like being a porn star, for example, like how far are we willing to take this? You will be
I hear you,
affected.
but I also feel like you can't like judge someone's circumstances. And if they're stripping to make money to pay whatever bill, they're stripping to make money to pay for school. They have an end date in mind. They have they. No, and I'm not saying that the average person is stripping because they want to go to college. I'm not saying that at all.
Okay, then
not at all. But I'm just saying, if someone comes into it with a mindset of I'm doing this for an X amount of time and then I'm going to stop, and that's what they actually do and succeed doing it, and they move on to better things and bigger things, and they grow and they progress. They meet someone who happens to find out that way back when they used to do this, and that's why the person doesn't want to move on and pursue them. That is a problem with the man. 100%.
Let me tell you what you just did there, right?
100%.
You gave an example right there that is the exception. Very small exception.
Wow.
But not the rule. Here's an example, plain and simple. We both saw the video. Those women did not sound like they were forced into stripping, OnlyFans, and being video vixens. That's the majority of women who are on OnlyFans, right?
But no one's going to force you into stripping. That's sex. That's sex trafficking.
The example you gave is like there's this. Listen. The example you gave was like these women have to pay for school, and they really don't have a choice, and blah blah blah. You're putting them up to be a victim, and when you set it up like that,
no, how is it a victim? No, I think that. I will say that regardless of how it's received, getting on a stage and being almost completely naked in front of a room full of strangers takes a certain level of something bold, something courageous.
It does.
It does.
I agree.
It does.
Listen,
and not to mention the amount of vulgar, like, abuse, verbal abuse, and uncomfortable situations I'm sure strippers are in.
That they willingly put themselves through knowing the environment.
But who's to say that the amount of money they make at the rate that they make it, that they could find another job that pays them that well?
See, that's the problem.
Given the level of education they might have.
Again.
Right.
This is the big problem right there. This is the same problem that those girls had on that panel, is that they want to have their cake and eat it too, right? You're saying, well, okay, they're making six-figure stripping. They won't be able, let me finish. They won't be able to find a job that's paying them the same, so they're going to continue stripping. Yes, and that comes with the consequences of most men not being able to take you seriously for relationships. You can't have your cake and eat it too. There are women out there who probably could start an OnlyFans, right? There are women out there who probably could strip, and they know for a fact, I've talked to some of them, that they would make a lot of money doing that stuff, but they care too much about their future. They care too much about their image. I want to be very clear right now. I'm not against sex work, right? And when I say sex work, I'm talking about OnlyFans and stuff that people are willing to do themselves, okay? I'm talking about stuff that people have looked at it, the type of sex work that people have looked at it like porn and have said, you know what, I want to be a porn star. Go ahead, be a porn star. I want to be a stripper. Be a stripper. I want to do OnlyFans. Go ahead and do it. But you can't avoid the consequences of decisions in life. Right? It's going to come.
What you shouldn't be doing is making these women sound undesirable, making marriage or relationships sound unattainable because of a choice they decided to make. You make it sound like no one ever is going to want them, and I think that's not fair. Okay. The average guy would not, I don't think, have the level of strength, patience, or honestly.
I assure you, the average porn star stripper does not have a successful marriage. Right. If regular marriage and people are divorcing at over half, right, at 60 or 70%, what more people who are bringing more problems like that? You know what I mean? We already have our shit. What more that? No, and so you're seeing it as don't shame them. I'm seeing it as these are good conversations for people to have, just like we're having right now. This is great, right? I like this because these are good conversations for people to have, because one day someone may be on YouTube or something and might think, I want to do OnlyFans. There are plenty of videos on there of women who either got fired from their job, they were teachers, right? They've lost certain friends, and their whole image, right, digital footprint has been tainted, and they've said, you know what, I wish I would have known that these videos could have been leaked. I wish I'd have known that this has affected my future. We try to protect women a lot of the times in our society and try to give them this whole like fake lie. It's a lie. We give them a lie of you can do whatever you want and there's no consequences. And especially within the Black community, we do that a lot to women in our community as well. And I say, listen, do what you want, but remember, we all have to sacrifice something for what we want. If you are not going to do OnlyFans and you can make a lot of money being a stripper, being into pornography, but you decide not to do it, then what you're sacrificing is maybe thousands of dollars. But hey, now you have a husband who takes you seriously, or you have a boyfriend who takes you seriously, and now you have self-respect for the most of the people around you. Why? Because most people aren't really comfortable with that stuff. It's all a matter of, are you willing to accept the consequences and the reality of your decisions?
No, and I hear you on that. I think that there are consequences that maybe most people who go into stripping might not be thinking of. I feel you on that. But I don't think it's fair to make those seem more unattainable. I agree. Like you said, marriage, like off the bat, is already hard enough. Divorce rates are.
Do you think that a woman who used to do you think the average woman who used to do, let's say, something like porn has the same likelihood of getting married as somebody who didn't do porn and instead went to prepare to be a wife?
I mean, I think that you can get married, you can get engaged.
Do you think that
I don't
who does porn?
I think it's you're asking me about half of a relationship, though. It takes another half to meet in the middle, right? It takes two people to make a relationship.
Do you think that both of those people would have an equal opportunity of suitors, as far as men who would take them seriously?
I mean, no. Do I think they'll have the same pool? Absolutely not. But that doesn't mean that just because their pools are different, that they can have a life that they want, or a life that they can appreciate, or a life that they are at peace with.
You see,
I hear you. I hear you.
Here's the problem, right?
You're saying the warning label. Here's the warning. There are consequences.
The problem isn't that people don't know that they have the option. The problem is that people think that they have the same options, no matter the decisions that they make. Do you get what I mean? Is that people think women, let me be really specific here, a lot of women, the content I make is like difficult for people to listen to, because I talk about men the same way too. You know what I mean? Men being assertive, men being ambitious. We have to be that way if we want to be successful. This idea that you can do whatever you want, you can go be on OnlyFans, you can go be a porn star, and then after that, it's going to be okay, you're going to find the love of your life, is not realistic.
No, but neither is that story if you don't strip. Neither is that story if you don't do pornos. That story's not realistic for anyone. That's like the Disney, Pixar, happily ever after. My prince like kissed me at the end of the movie.
What's unrealistic for everybody?
That idea that if I do good and I do right, then I can have the husband I want, or I can have the life I want. It just doesn't work like that. I think I think your chances are worse off if you strip and you do all those things. For the people who are on the straight and narrow path, like immune to having hardships, they are immune to having poor relationships.
I agree with you. I agree. And you just admitted, you said, hey, you think the people that do the stripping and the stuff like that, they'll have a less chance of finding like a serious relationship. I want to say this.
That's not what I said. I said that their pools are different. Their pools are different.
Okay.
Their pools of options may be different.
Like almost non-existent for the people who did porn.
I mean, if they're looking for a millionaire, maybe.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. We're going to move into like the black community right now.
Okay.
I usually give a statistic in like videos when I react to Kevin Samuels, because he says it a lot of the times. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but there's a statistic of 1 in 4 women within the black community getting married. Right. On top of that, add that you're doing sex work, add that you're doing porn, add that you're like doing this video vixen life and you don't want to leave it. But for this topic's sake, we'll base it on the conversation I was having on Fresh and Fit. You're making it nearly impossible with the current situation that you're going to find a serious relationship that will lead into marriage. We shouldn't be trying to defend people respecting reality, because this is what blows my mind a lot of times about these conversations, is that you want to kind of give people a taste of like how reality works, right? And I think you do people a disservice, not you in particular, I'm just talking about people in general, when you feed them these lies of like, do whatever you want, don't worry, it's going to be okay. When the truth is, we see the numbers and we know how this stuff usually plays out. We should be encouraging people to seriously consider not doing the OnlyFans and the pornography, depending on their goals. It's something that you should seriously
You see unrealistic, and I think that half those women weren't. Half those women couldn't even say, I want my man to be monogamous. And I think that takes a certain amount of vulnerability and transparency with yourself to know that who do you think you are even asking for that if you're shipping, right? Like, I think most of them were open to having a polygamous relationship or open relationship. And I think that choosing that lifestyle and choosing that way of going about your everyday life, like, have irreversible consequences on some of the decisions you make, being what you accept from partners. If they're willing to accept a person who is hopping around from person to person to person, wouldn't you think that like their lifestyle they've chosen has had influence on that? So I think in a way that is kind of accepting accountability, that is accepting that having or desiring a monogamous relationship is unrealistic because of the life and the decisions you've made.
Okay, so listen, I heard what you said, but I think we can agree on one thing here, which was my point from the very beginning, is if you, as a woman, and I believe Myron was right, are considering to do what those women did, the OnlyFans and the like sex work and porn and that, it lessens your pool of men who are going to take you seriously for a relationship.
Agreed.
That's the reality. Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. Sounds good. Oh man, welcome to the No Cap Show, man. Welcome to the No Cap Show. Any more questions or any more points actually that stood out to you about the video?
You know, I actually made notes. Let's see. Let's see. The woman who was paying a man's rent, I was done.
Would you do that?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No.
I feel you. Would you want a guy that's like paying the majority of the rent?
I think most women will prefer that, but I'm also like open-minded, and I know everyone's circumstances are different, so I can meet you halfway, but I'm not paying your rent.
So I love that you said that. By the way, you kept it real, you know, and maybe now you're gonna start telling the truth because you know you've told the truth twice right now on the No Cap Show. So you said you think most women would prefer a man who takes care of the rent, right? The majority of it. And I agree with you. Again, this is a great example of how women are able to see what they want, or what most women want. But when it comes to what men want, it gets real sensitive. It gets real sensitive when we say we don't want a woman that belongs to the streets. Now it's like, oh, wait, how about... let's negotiate it. Wait, but you know, there are women out there who can do, no. The same way that you ideally want a man who's going to be the breadwinner, even if you're not going to marry him, you want him to pay for the first date. You want him to cover the tab, right? Most times when he takes you out to treat you. That's the same way men have preferences when it comes to a woman's past, right? Men, we don't have people who are out here advocating for us to go Dutch. You know what I mean? There's nobody. You just have women who will not go out with you if you don't have money. So you gotta reach that standard, right? We don't get to say, well, you know, it's unfair and blah, blah, blah. And I just think it's not right that we're requiring men to pay for dates. No, bro. You do not have money, you don't get pussy. That's just the way it goes.
But see, now you're interchanging all these words and they're not equivalent. So like getting laid versus dating versus being in a relationship versus being married. Those are all phases. Those are all phases of a relationship, right? And when you go through those phases,
whether you are dating or whether you are in a marriage, women would prefer that you are cashing out. Are you gonna?
No, prefer, but that you say it with such passion that it makes it seem like you're excluding a group that should be included in the conversation. Is all I'm saying.
Which group is that?
The group that doesn't meet that stereotype, right?
The broke boys? You talking about broke niggas that you don't date?
Oh man.
I mean, you don't date them. You don't date those guys. So this is the difference now. Men, I'm holding men accountable. On my channel, I tell men, go out there and get a better job, improve your life. Not for women, but just things become easier, right? Because men, you don't have people out there who are going to date you and understand that you can't afford the date.
But so you just automatically assume I never dated someone who's broke. That's
not what I said. That's not what I said. What I assumed was that in general, you were honest and you said that you prefer a guy who is going to not be broke.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm assuming that if you can tell a guy's broke.
No, it's not a great sign, but that doesn't mean I've never dated someone who was not well off or who didn't have
I hear you.
Right?
Let's talk about I hear you, but let's be honest here. Past people you have gone on a date with and the guys you have given a chance to, have they been broke? The guys you've actually given a chance to. Were they making more money than you, or if not making more money than you, were they taking care of the bill, the majority of the guys in the past?
I mean, no, I feel like the majority of the guys I've dated, we've been like 50-50. I think that also comes with age, though. I think that also comes with
Welcome
age.
to the
dating
No
someone and you're
Cap
young, you guys are both broke.
No Cap Show. 50-50, Alex.
If you're 16, 17, 18, you're in college, you're broke.
Most guys
What?
Most
people in college are broke, right? Unless you were balling in college and I missed it. Like, weren't you broke in college?
Oh man.
I'm only 27. People have student debt. People are broke in college.
I'm 27.
Okay. You were broke in college?
We go through the same experiences. We go through the same experiences. We're both dating out here.
But if you're in college as a female and you're not balling, who do you think you are? Like, not going out on a date with someone who's exactly where you are in life.
See, in this conversation, you're giving ideas that sound nice. But the truth is, in real life, women don't give a fuck. Women aren't understanding. They don't ask you, what do you do for your job? Actually, I don't have a job right now. Okay, I'll pay for it. I'll pay for it since you don't have a job. No, most women are like, oh, you don't have a job? Oh, you don't have a car? Oh, yeah, never mind, bro. I'm good. No job, no car, you're a bum. And you're going to sit there and tell me you went 50-50? I don't believe it. That can't be the truth, but this is the No Cap Show, man. This is the No Cap Show.
Maybe people aren't as nice as me. Maybe that's the plot twist. I'm too nice. I'm just too nice. I think we found my problem.
You're the special exception out of the other guests I've had over here who lied to my fucking face. All right, so any more points? Anything else that stood out to you?
I don't know. I really didn't like how all the women just made it seem like they were like looking for an opportunity to be a guy who's like everyone. That's just fake. You can't. They were like, they made it seem like, I want to be his everything. I want to be his support system. I'll be his therapist. I'll be I'll tend to his every need. I just think that's unrealistic.
That was BS.
It's nonsense.
It's just like what we do on resumes. I feel like everybody lies when they're filling out resumes. At least I know I'm lying like hell when I'm like, show up on time. I'm like, no, I don't. In my head, But it just seemed like one of those things where they're just saying what they think men want. Yeah, I agree with you. None of them actually said what men want. Maybe, two of them, I think one of them said cater to a man, which I'm going to put that in the nurturing category. Mm-hmm. Men appreciate women that are nurturing. We just do. It feels nice. And I think another one said, listen. Men appreciate women that can listen. More importantly, women who are cooperative. know how to follow directions, know how to do what they're told.
What century?
Submissive women.
No, what century are you in? Come on.
2021, man. 2021.
I can't.
I'm in a century.
No.
I'm in a century of men.
That's not.
I'm in a century of men who aren't simps. I'm in a century of men who, because here's the truth. You can sit there and say, this new century of like a guy isn't expected to do all these things. He doesn't take that like alpha male role, and a woman doesn't take that feminine role, and that masculine and feminine energy doesn't exist because of culture and society. I can point you to the guys who are getting the most pussy out here. And there are guys who maintain frame. They are masculine. They are assertive. They are confident, right? They're ambitious, and they're direct with women, not forceful. You know what I mean? There's game to it. You feel me? But those are the guys who are still killing it, regardless of what we try to tell ourselves, even in 2021. You feel me? And the women who are getting married, the same. The women who are getting taken seriously for relationships, the same. Feminine, nurturing, caring, kind, all good things.
So why is being opinionated or taking a stance or standing your ground, why is this in regards to women, why is it always taken in a negative light? Right? You said cooperative, right? Listens, follows instructions, nurturing, like sweet-natured, but like being well-rounded, right? Like being a leader. Like no man is gonna list all of those masculine qualities that I think it's important for women to have, to not be walking all over, not to be taken advantage of, right? Like you want someone meek and who's gonna just do whatever you say, and that's not the kind of woman I think that we should be trying to continue to breed in this culture, especially in this Black culture. Like submissive women, what? Like I don't know, that's just kind of disappointing. Like you should want your women to be well spoken. You should be well cultured, well traveled.
Most Black women today are well spoken and well traveled.
Right.
They're taking trips by themselves.
And that's okay. That's okay.
I think most women want to get married, so I don't think most women would think it's okay in the long run. But I think even for yourself, I
think also people just put this like unreasonable amount of stress and like find a man, find a good man, find a good rich man. Like no.
If you look at platforms,
there's no pressure.
If you look at platforms where people are talking about marriage, it's often Black women. The majority of platforms right now talking about marriage and relationships in our community. It's Black single women, very successful, a lot of them, talking about why can't they find a man. And they never for once think, what does a man want? Because 1 in 4 will get married, the rest of them will die alone. But they never ask, what do men want? It doesn't matter how you think things should be. There's this thing we've been going back to called reality of men want pleasant women to be around. And listen, a lot of times we love to go on extremes. It's like either you're this woman who's like really assertive and you're outspoken, opinionated, highly educated. You can lead to what's wrong with the woman leading, or you're in some house trapped somewhere in some basement getting your ass beat by your man, getting fed through a window. Or, you're just this victim. That's a problem.
Through a window, oh my God.
That's a problem. I mean, it's like, this is how people talk about it. That's a problem. It doesn't have to be that extreme, right? There's always a balance in between, and usually people don't want to find that balance. In the balance, you find, instead of independence, you find interdependence, right? You learn how to cooperate with one another. There can't be two leaders in any type of anything, any organization where two people are working together to reach a goal. There's nothing that has two leaders. Same with relationships, it doesn't work any different. Because here's what usually happens. Men aren't the ones leaving relationships, it's women. In the Black community especially, 70% of women outside of the Black community in the general public initiate divorce. 80% of women within the Black community initiate divorce. That has a lot to do with their mindset and them thinking that, oh, I can lead too, and not knowing their role as a woman in a relationship.
I don't think you can, I mean, unless you know what percentage of marriages got divorced because they weren't submissive versus they had financial issues versus, I mean, like, you would have to know the cause, right? Because there's a difference between causation and correlation. You'd have to know the exact cause of each divorce to be able to, like, mathematically back up that statistic and say it's because a woman didn't know her role. A woman wasn't submissive. A woman wasn't a good listener. I think those are all important qualities of knowing how to do. I just don't think that's all the things that women should be acknowledged for, because they're way obviously more skilled and more capable of doing much better things other than meeting the standard of what a woman is supposed to be. How are women ever supposed to think outside the box if you just give a very cookie cutter example?
Listen, you totally skipped over my whole point.
Okay, well, then my apologies. Can you make your point again?
In every organization, there is a leader. Mm-hmm. It works the same way in relationships. The same way there's a co-pilot in a plane. The same way that there's seriously, and this is part of the problem. The lack of understanding of power dynamics is because if a business or a company had two bosses, people who win and succeed and have fruitful relationships, right? We're going to use a business to compare. They know not to put two CEOs in the same building working together. Why? Because they'll spend more time arguing rather than making decisions. This goes back to look at the way life works in general.
I have two bosses. I don't know what to tell you. I have two bosses at my job. I have two bosses. Owner and co-owner, I swear. I know it's so convenient, but it's true.
No. Even in owner and co-owner, right? There is somebody there who's an executive and who's a supervisor, who are making the bigger decisions.
Okay.
They're not going to send two people to make final decisions on an operation in any business, because that would just be confusing, because they need someone to blame. The leader takes the responsibility in that situation, in a relationship. So this idea that a lot of women have of, I can lead too, sure, you're just going to have to get with a simp, a beta male, and you end up leaving them because those are the type of men that are being produced today, and they leave them, right? Most likely. Or you can humble yourself, but getting this idea of like, we can both lead, it's unrealistic. It doesn't work out in any other part of life.
I don't know. I think that partnership means that you have a partner, right? And if you have a partner, it's not the same thing as having a subordinate, right? And I think that the power dynamic you're describing is there's a superior and there's an inferior. And if you're going to argue that the woman is the inferior because she needs to allow her man to be a man, and she needs to be supportive and nurturing, and she needs to allow him to lead, I think that maybe there are a lot of women who aren't willing to meet that image, right? And
who are not going to fit that image?
Who are not going to fit you? Who are not going to try you? Who don't want to?
Wait, you're saying who? Oh, yeah, and that's okay. They're dying alone.
No, they're
1 in 4. Yes, they are. 1 in 4 black women get married.
No, they're not. I think if you limit your
real statistics.
I think if you limit your pool to dating black women dating black men, I think I would be more comfortable agreeing with you. But if you're just going to say black women dating other people, period.
The majority of black women want black men.
See, this is where I realize that I'm the minority.
Even white men, they come on my channel, they comment all the time. They're not going to deal with that either. You think black women love black men so much that they're like, you know what? I'm not going to date a black man. I'm not going to cooperate with a black man. I'd rather die alone, and I'm not attracted to white men. No, you know what it is, right? If they could take that same type of energy to another place where it would work, they would, but they can't, and they don't, and it doesn't happen. as often.
Well, I think I would argue that there's a larger percentage unwilling to travel outside of the Black community to seek partnership. And maybe that is the hurdle that some of them need to hop over if they're not willing to concede to whatever standards their Black man wants them to have. Right? I do think there's a lot of Black women who prefer to be with Black men. I will agree. And maybe I don't
The majority do. It's the majority do.
But I do think that
the problem isn't the men. Men are the same everywhere. You don't see.
So basically, you're saying that the man's never the problem, right? That can't be the narrative.
When it comes to marriage, here we're talking about marriage and power dynamics, and you look at the average Black woman. Is she taught to play the background? Is she taught to be a helpmate, or is there this strong, really independent, masculine message that's taught to most Black women? I mean, we both know what it is. We both see it.
But as Black men, I get irritated when they act like they don't understand why that narrative is the way it is, right? Like, it's not like Black women just woke up and say, I want to raise children all by myself. I'm not saying that's everyone's narrative. I'm saying that's a narrative that fits a lot of families, right? So if you generationally have a family full of strong women who have had to be independent because they were forced to be independent and had to play two roles, you have to have some sort of empathy, some level of sympathy for these women. You have to take that into accountability when you look at the whole person, right? Because it's generational. You can't just say, oh, like
no sympathy.
No. That's where
we're
going to have to agree to disagree on that.
Do you know? No. Let me tell you why. Because women don't give sympathy to men.
Oh, wow.
You told me that you prefer a guy who takes the majority of the bills.
For sure, but I'm currently dating someone who splits the bills with me. I have a preference. Okay. I'm not going to have every single preference checked off my list just because I want it.
Understood. But listen, women aren't a biological clock. You're not just racing against Black men. You're racing against time. So if you're a woman living right now, time doesn't have sympathy on you, right? There's no time to sit down and cry about the reasons why your mom was single and now you're single. What's the solution to women not leaving relationships? That's the question. At an 80% rate. That's the question.
I think that has to do with the partnership. And so if you're going to ask why do women leave, I think that women are more comfortable initiating that process, right? But that doesn't mean that because women are more comfortable initiating that process. Why are
women more comfortable initiating the process? Why would you initiate the process if you were
because I think most at least Black women would feel as if being alone is better than their current situation because maybe that's where they started.
And there lies the problem.
That's where they started.
Black women.
But if that's where they came from, and that's where they started.
Exactly. But listen, Black women are willing to leave relationships regardless of the children who they are showing examples to, and they're off continuing that cycle. When you get married, it's no longer about what you want. Your family and your family unit and children come first. You see, in the past, people valued the family unit. It wasn't about the way you make me feel. It was about these kids need to grow up with both parents. Why? Because kids who have both parents in their lives tend to do better. Over time, women in the situation we're talking about and in reality are willing to leave marriages and break up families, and there is no good excuse to do that.
If you are in a toxic relationship, I'm not going to say in a toxic relationship.
So majority of
toxic.
It
will be because I love my children that I decide to get out of a toxic relationship. See,
you just heard me say that people that break up and leave perform worse than people that decide to work things through. So what you're saying right there doesn't hold any water.
No, because you're talking about a end of a unit that requires two parts, and you're only talking about half of it. There's another half.
The half that leave.
Okay, but just because you leave doesn't completely rid the other person of fault.
No, but once you leave, you've done irreversible damage to those children. You are saying you have to understand where these women come from. They come from these women who've had to do it by themselves because their parents couldn't humble themselves and learn how to be submissive, feminine women and know their role within a relationship. Other races do it. Other races do it because they're not as headstrong. Women who get into relationships, but a marriage is how a lot of people keep score. They'll get into relationships, but until you're married and you're able to go through a marriage and learn how to cooperate with the man, you're at risk. You're at risk at that independent side of you that doesn't think that there's any order or power dynamics and doesn't think that there's cooperation and
I think there's respect.
50-50.
I think there's respect, communication, and understanding. And I don't think it always has to be about who's wearing the pants. I don't think every situation is like that. I think that you can probably come up with an average dynamic for every culture and every family. But I think at the
Other
end of the
cultures
day,
have their dynamics already. The women aren't preaching single moms and glorifying single motherhood.
no, there's some mothers who can't even read, and that's their norm. Because
Okay?
their men don't allow them to, or their men expect them to stay home and take care
Again,
of them.
let's stick in the majority. Let's stick in the majority here.
But
not the
really
some.
though,
Bottom line is this, man. Marriage. Because these women get into relationships, right? A disagreeable woman is an unattractive woman to a man. Any man. Any man, period.
so that means that the opposite of that is a woman who agrees with everything, right?
Again,
the
extremes. The extremes.
But
You've gotta learn to not live in extremes.
I have a question.
Cooperative.
Cooperative, right? Collaborative, right? But I also wonder
Cooperative.
for the people who've been in serious relationships. I feel like, and tell me if you disagree. No, you will tell me if you disagree. But for those relationships that meant the most, that mattered the most, was it not up until the moment where you realized you disagreed about something that it really taught you about the other person? Because you can agree all day long. The moment you don't agree with someone and you realize how you guys deal with that disagreement, how you guys respond to each other's differences, I think that teaches you the most valuable lesson about the other person. And you wouldn't know that unless you had an opportunity to disagree about something.
I can tell that you're refusing to see the simplicity in what I'm saying, which is why I have to use examples. When you're at your job, you might have a disagreement with your boss, and she might call you in to talk to you, right? Sure, you guys may hash things out and come to an agreement. But when you walk out of that building, that room where you were talking to her with, and you get back to work, in reality, she's your boss. Or he's your boss, whoever's your boss right now. That person continues to be your boss. I agree, yes, work things out, talk things through.
You just compared your spouse to having a boss. My husband's my boss. Is that the example?
The final decision maker, the leader. Yes, the boss.
Man. No.
1 in 4.
No, I'm going to be that 1 in 4, I'm telling you.
You mean that 3 out of 4?
What? The 1 out of 4? No, I mean, I don't know. Maybe because I'm dating outside, black men, and maybe my chances go up a little higher.
Hey, I hope it does. I hope it does work out for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here's what we can't deny is that it's not working out for the majority of black women. Black men are speaking out, and here are the conversations that are being had, right? Final question for you.
Yeah.
After this conversation, have you learned anything or taken anything with you?
Yeah, for sure.
What?
I as a woman, you surrounded by a whole bunch of other women, right? Being a woman surrounded by other women. I think that taking time to listen to the male's perspective, regardless of how much you may agree or disagree, is a fact of life that you have to face. right? And in order to move in the world and live in the world and have a certain life in this world, you have to consider the male perspective. And so where I will end with, it's like, you know, for things that I disagree with, it's always important to me to know that that other person is able to give me reciprocity, right? And I think that power dynamics or not, if you're able to find that, then you're doing something right. So I appreciate your perspective, even if I don't obviously agree with all of those elements. It still gives you insight onto how other Black men think. So being a Black woman, that's still a narrative that's important to me. So I appreciate that.
Alex, it was good to have you. Overall, wish you the best for sure. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button down below. Also, let me know what you guys thought of the conversation. You guys know I stay in the comment section and I communicate with you guys. Check out my Patreon in the link in the description. Again, guys, I'm really close to 20K subscribers. So if you've been watching my videos and you've seen them a few times, hit that subscribe button, man. I appreciate you guys very much. Hey, my name is Chisha Zed. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.